Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
You see, I work from home. It's a great gig, but it means I rely heavily on package deliveries for both work supplies and personal stuff. Everything was fine until this new guy moved in next door. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I even baked some cookies and took them over as a housewarming gift. But the moment I knocked on his door, I got a weird vibe. He barely cracked the door open, muttered a quick thanks, and shot it in my face. Not exactly the friendliest welcome, but I figured maybe he was just shy or having a bad day. Then the package incident started. It began with small things. A book I ordered, some art supplies, nothing major. But as time went on, more and more of my deliveries went missing. I get notifications that packages were delivered, but when I checked my porch, there'd be nothing there. I started to get suspicious when I noticed a pattern. Every time my neighbor's beat-up pickup truck was in the driveway, my packages would vanish. I even caught him a few times peering out his window when the delivery truck pulled up to my house. One day, I lost it. I'd ordered a specialized drawing tablet for a big project, and it never showed up. That tablet cost me a pretty penny, and without it, I was in danger of missing my deadline. I knew I had to do something. That's when I came up with my plan. I decided to teach this package thief a lesson he wouldn't forget. I started ordering empty boxes and filling them with the most useless junk I could find around my house. Old newspapers, broken pencils, even some moldy bread I found at the back of my fridge. The first day I put out one of my decoy packages, I watched from my window. Sure enough, not even an hour after the delivery guy dropped it off, I saw my neighbor skulking across my lawn. He looked around quickly, then snatched the package and scurried back to his house. I whispered to myself, feeling satisfied that I had caught the sneaky thief in the act. The next morning I peeked out my window and saw him angrily tossing the opened box into his trash can. I kept this up for a few more days. Each time I'd fill a box with more and more ridiculous items. One day it was a collection of single socks with holes in them. Another day it was a bunch of expired coupons for cat food. I don't even own a cat. By the third time I saw him hesitate before taking the package. He picked it up, shook it a bit, and then grudgingly took it anyway. I guess his greed got the better of him. That evening I heard a knock on my door. It was him. He awkwardly mentioned that he thought there had been a mix-up with some of my packages. When I asked what he meant, he explained that he had accidentally picked up a few of my boxes, thinking they were his, but they were full of junk. I pretended to be surprised and asked if he was sure they were addressed to me. He shifted uncomfortably and said he was pretty sure. He just wanted to let me know and assured me it wouldn't happen again. I thanked him for letting me know and said I'd keep an eye out. After that, my packages started arriving safely again. I guess he finally got the message. But I wasn't quite done yet. A week later, I ordered one last decoy package. This time I filled it with glitter. Lots and lots of glitter. I made sure to pack it in such a way that it would explode when opened. Sure enough, he took the bait one last time. That afternoon I heard a muffled yell from next door, followed by a string of colorful curses. When I peeked out my window, I saw him standing in his driveway covered head to toe in sparkly glitter. I laughed to myself, thinking that he got what he deserved. Since then, I haven't had a single package go missing, and sometimes when I see my neighbor outside, he gives me a wary look, and I just smile and wave. About 6 months ago, I moved into this neighborhood. It seemed perfect. Nice houses, friendly neighbors, and a peaceful atmosphere. Well, most of the neighbors were friendly except for the woman across the street. From day one, she had this look on her face like she had smelled something rotten whenever she saw me. I tried to be neighborly, waving and smiling when I'd see her outside. She'd just turn her nose up and look away. I figured, hey, can't win 'em all, right? So I just went about my business. Everything was fine until about a month ago when things took a turn for the bizarre. I had a client meeting in the afternoon, so I parked my car on the street in front of my house. It's a public street and there are no parking restrictions. I was planning to head out again in a couple of hours for another appointment so it didn't make sense to park in the garage just to take it out again so soon. As I was getting ready to leave, I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, there she was, the unfriendly neighbor from across the street. Let's call her Karen. Karen demanded that I move my car into the garage immediately. When I asked her to clarify, she called my car an eyesore and insisted I park it in the garage where it belonged. I tried to explain that I was heading out again soon, so it didn't make sense to move it. Karen didn't care about my schedule and claimed my car was ruining the look of the nice neighborhood. I attempted to reason with her, saying that while I understood she might not like seeing cars on the street, it was perfectly legal. Karen then threatened that I'd regret it if I didn't move the car within 2 hours. Before I could respond, she stormed off back to her house. I stood there, stunned. Was this lady for real? I shook my head, grabbed my stuff, and left for my meeting thinking she was just all talk. I got back home about 3 hours later, and my car was gone. At first, I thought maybe I had parked somewhere else and forgotten. But no, I was sure I'd left it right in front of my house. I started to panic, thinking it had been stolen. That's when I noticed the guy across the street watering his lawn. He called out to me. The neighbor asked if I was looking for my car. When I confirmed, he told me something unbelievable. He explained that the woman across the street had called someone, possibly her brother, to have my car towed away. I was shocked and said she couldn't do that. The neighbor agreed it was crazy and offered to share footage from his security cameras as proof. I was in shock. Who does something like that? I thanked my neighbor and asked if he could send me the footage. He agreed, and I went inside to try and figure out what to do next. The next day, I went to the police station with the video evidence. The officers were as baffled as I was. They took my statement and the video, promising to investigate. A week went by with no news. I had to rent a car to get to my meetings, which was putting a strain on my finances. Then, out of the blue, I got a call from the police. They had tracked down Karen's brother, who ran a tow truck service. But it wasn't just any tow truck service, it was illegal and unlicensed. The story they uncovered was unbelievable. Karen had called her brother, telling him to tow my car and make it disappear. This guy, instead of refusing like any sane person would, actually did it. He towed my car to a scrapyard he had connections with and had it crushed into a cube of metal. I was devastated. My car wasn't just transportation, it was my livelihood. I needed it to get to client meetings, to deliver work, to, live my life. And these people had destroyed it over a petty neighborhood dispute. The police arrested Karen, her brother, and the scrapyard owner for theft, destruction of property, and operating an illegal towing service. But I wasn't done. I decided to file a civil suit against all of them. I found a lawyer who took my case on contingency, confident we had a strong case with the video evidence and the criminal charges. The trial was a circus. Karen tried to argue that she was just trying to maintain the neighborhood standards. Her brother claimed he thought he was doing a legitimate tow job. The scrapyard owner pleaded ignorance. The judge ruled in my favor. Karen, her brother, and the scrapyard owner were ordered to pay me a total of $75,000 in damages. It covered the cost of my car, the rental fees I'd paid, lost wages from missed meetings, and punitive damages for the stress and inconvenience they'd caused. To top it all off, Karen and her husband put their house up for sale a month later. Turns out most of the neighborhood had been fed up with her behavior for years, and this was the last straw. As they were moving out, I caught Karen glaring at me from her driveway. I sarcastically asked Karen if she needed help moving, noting it was moving day. Karen angrily responded that it was all my fault, and I had ruined everything. I told her that she had done this to herself, suggesting that next time she should try being a decent human being instead of a nightmare neighbor. I used part of the settlement money to buy a new car, a nice upgrade from my old one, I might add. The rest went into savings and investing in my business. We had our daughter 5 years ago, and it was the happiest day of our lives. From the moment she was born, we knew we wanted to give her the best life possible. That meant working hard to provide for her, but also making sure she had strong relationships with her extended family. My mother was overjoyed to become a grandmother. At first, everything was great. She'd visit often, bring gifts, and shower our little girl with love and attention. But as time went on, things started to change. It all came to a head when our daughter started elementary school. Suddenly, our schedules became more structured. My husband's days off were weekends and holidays, while I worked a typical 9 to 5. My mother, on the other hand, worked in retail with an unpredictable schedule. I tried my best to accommodate her. I tell her she could come over after school lets out or on digital learning days, but it seemed like she always had to work on those days. One day she called me up sounding frustrated. She accused me of not wanting her to see her granddaughter. I was shocked and tried to explain that wasn't true at all. I reminded her of the times I told her she could visit, but she insisted those times never worked for her and implied I was doing it on purpose. I tried explaining our schedules again, but she didn't seem to hear me. As our daughter's birthday approached, things got even worse. My mother called with an outrageous demand. She wanted to take our daughter from her party and bring her back Sunday afternoon. I told her that was impossible because my husband wanted to spend time with her too on his day off. My mother then accused us of always keeping our daughter from her, saying we get to see her every day. The conversation went downhill from there. I was hurt and angry, but I tried to keep my cool. I reminded her once again that she could visit after school any day next week, but she insisted she couldn't because she had to take off for the party and worked all those other days. I didn't know what else to say. It wasn't my fault her work schedule was so difficult. The next day, my husband showed me some disturbing text messages from my mother. She was going on and on about how unfair it was that she couldn't spend quality time with our daughter. She claimed their relationship was being ostracized and that it was unfair to either of them. She declared she was going to petition the court for grandparent visitation, saying if that's what it took to get quality time with her granddaughter, then that's what needed to be done. I was floored. How could she even think about taking legal action against us? We'd never denied her visits. We just couldn't accommodate her exact demands all the time. My husband and I talked it over and decided we needed to take action. First, we called the school and made it clear that under no circumstances was our daughter to be released to my mother. We removed her as an emergency contact, just to be safe. Then, we drafted a clear, firm response to her threats. We explained that, while we valued her relationship with our daughter, her behavior was unacceptable. We outlined specific times she could visit, after school hours, and occasional weekend days, but made it clear that these were our decisions as parents. We also addressed a concern that had been nagging at us. My mother's husband had once pointed a weapon at me during an argument years ago. We stated in no uncertain terms that he was not welcome at any visits due to safety concerns. Finally, we made the tough decision to uninvite her from our daughter's birthday party. It broke my heart to do it, but we couldn't risk her causing a scene or trying to take our daughter. The day after we sent our response, my mother showed up at our door, crying and apologizing. She claimed she'd been overwhelmed and acted rashly. While we appreciated her apology, we stood firm on our boundaries. Looking back, I realize how important it is to set clear boundaries, even with family. It's not always easy, but it's necessary for everyone's well-being. My partner and I have been running our dance studio for the past 5 years. It all started when we both got laid off from our corporate jobs during a company restructure. We'd always loved dancing, so we decided to take a leap of faith and open our own studio. It wasn't easy at first. We poured our savings into renting a space and fixing it up. We installed mirrors, put up nice wallpaper, and even built partition walls to create separate practice rooms. Slowly but surely, we built up a loyal student base. We weren't rolling in money, but we were making enough to get by and do what we loved. Everything was going fine until our landlord dropped a bomb on us. Let me tell you what happened. I reached out to the landlord about the message I received regarding the lease renewal meeting. I asked if everything was okay. The landlord responded by saying they had been looking at market rates and thought it was time for an adjustment. When I asked what kind of adjustment they were talking about, the landlord dropped the bombshell. They were planning to double the rent. I was shocked and told them we couldn't afford that. The landlord's response was cold. Take it or leave it, claiming the space was now prime real estate. Doubling the rent would basically kill our business. We tried negotiating, but the landlord wouldn't budge. That's when we realized we had to make a tough decision. My partner and I sat down to discuss our options. My partner asked what we were going to do, stating that we couldn't pay double the rent. I agreed and suggested we might have to move. My partner expressed concern about all the work we put into the place, mentioning the renovations and equipment. I acknowledged their concerns but reminded them of our contract, which stated that all those improvements belong to our business, not the property. When my partner began to catch on, I said we should take everything we legally could when we leave. And that's exactly what we did. We found a new space in a better part of town, ironically for less rent than we were originally paying. Then we got to work. In just 3 days, we stripped our old studio bare. We took down the mirrors, removed the wallpaper, even took out the partition walls we'd installed. We left the place as a bare concrete shell, exactly as specified in our contract as fit for use. But then something interesting happened. One of our former students mentioned she worked for the main property listing website in our country. She told us about their policy on misleading listings, explaining that if the photos on a listing didn't match the actual property, people could complain and get the listing removed. I found this information quite interesting. I didn't say anything more, but word spread among our students and their families. Before we knew it, 56 different people had filed complaints about the misleading listing for our old studio space. The landlord had used photos of the fully decked out studio to advertise the space, making it look perfect for a dance or fitness studio. But of course, that's not what it looked like anymore. It wasn't long before both the realtors and landlord's listings were taken down. They were even blacklisted from the website. Last I heard, they're still struggling to rent out that empty concrete box. Meanwhile, we're thriving in our new location. It's bigger, nicer, and costs us 30% less than what we were paying before. Karen, the landlord, might have thought she was clever, trying to double our rent like that. But in the end, we got the last laugh. And let me tell you, that's a dance I'm happy to perform any day of the week. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.